When I was a kid, it was a big deal to read books in order to earn a free Pizza Hut pizza. Our elementary school teachers sent home these coloring sheets, and we'd finish reading our book. And once it was completed, once we had completed something like 15 or 20 books, we could bring in the finished sheet for a free pizza coupon. And I've always loved to read, and I love pizza. So as an elementary student, I remember feeling like this was the perfect competition for me. Something I could see the visible results to as I proudly colored in each little shape. I felt like my scores would add up and I would win. But here's the problem. It wasn't a competition. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Dose. If you have kids who've done this little sponsored reading activity, something like that, or maybe if you remember doing something like this when you were young, I'm guessing you could figure out that they were simply meant to motivate kids to read. They had no bearing on my grades. They weren't required by any means, and I wasn't supposed to compare my completion of these reading sheets to the other people in my class. But keeping score is exactly what I did. I can remember feeling like it would maybe earn me more appreciation from my teacher than he or she had for other students. So much that keeping score on this silly little activity eventually became more important than the reading itself. My view of the competition was that it earned me some sort of status in school. And sure, you might be out there thinking, I am a big dork for remembering this aspect of growing up. But I don't think we have to look very far nowadays to see kids being drawn into the same type of competition for status, even if Pizza Hut doesn't sponsor these anymore. And let's be honest, adults, we do the same kind of thing. We keep score all the time, don't we? My husband and I were once in a couples small group, and the study that we did, it started with this kind of staged video with a married couple. These were actors. And the husband comes home late and he apologizes for it. He says something like, I know I put you out because you had to do the bedtime routine without me. It was a miscommunication with my friend. I should have driven myself to my fantasy football draft and instead of relying on him for a ride home. And you can tell in the acting that he's being genuine in his apology. And then the camera pans to the wife, who has kind of a snippy voice, kind of stern eyebrows, and says, "It's fine. Don't worry about it." But then you can see that she's sitting in this scene next to a file cabinet, a tall one like you'd see in an office. And she opens up one of the drawers and she pulls out a folder from among many folders, and it says "Home Late." And she makes a note in it, all while passively, aggressively telling her husband, "Don't worry about it. I've already forgotten about this." And every time I think about the ways that we keep score in our lives and in our relationships, I think about this image of a file cabinet. And maybe, I confess, it's because that's often my Achilles heel. I kept score in my reading activity, and I keep score in my daily life. I keep track of how many times I picked up the kids in a week, or how many times I cooked a meal or picked up groceries. And I end up telling myself the lie that my kids will appreciate me more since I'm doing all of these things, or my husband should love me more because of the things I do for our family. But you know this, if you've found yourself in that mental state, it does no good. No good for your relationship, no good for your own emotional well-being. What I do, or the ways I compete with others for their approval, or somehow try and earn their status or appreciation or love, that is not who God created any of us to be. So, as we launch into this new year, Daily Dosers, we are asking what needs to be newly defined, what needs to be redefined in the views we have of ourselves, and in the way we think about who God sees us to be. Today, I want to remind you that God's love does not keep score. God does not have a filing cabinet. God is not watching and waiting for you to mess up. God's not comparing you to your fellow student or to your partner. In the book of Hebrews, chapter 13, that chapter begins with this simple verse: "Let mutual love continue." And this part in the book of Hebrews is talking about our interactions with others, reminding us that my love is not somehow better than my neighbor's love. Love isn't a competition. Love is meant to be mutual. And again, in 1 John 4, we hear these words: "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves was born from God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. And God didn't keep track of love with a fancy filing system. Instead, this is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us. See, nothing that you can do will earn more love from God. He showed his love for us by sending Jesus, and he will continue to show us. No competition required. So, Daily Dosers, I invite you to look around you and wonder, where do you need to let go of that competition and remember that you are loved? Thanks so much for being here this week on the Daily Dose. We would love for you to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and maybe share it with a friend. Have a good day.